My name is Nancy Worden, and I made this. So I grew up in Ellensburg. I came here at age 12. My parents were both on the faculty at the university, and I went middle school through high school and college here. And I think it was a very supportive environment. I was very lucky to be in high school in the 1970s because Kay Crimp was my art teacher, and she was really phenomenal. She wouldn't let us do anything silly. We had to have ideas. We had to follow them through. She was an incredible art teacher. And then when I was done there, I went up to the art department, and they had an amazing art department in those days. So I feel very lucky that I landed here, but I think I decided that I was an artist when I was in high school because Mrs. Crimp she had gone to art center, she did her own artwork, she had shows. She kind of showed me what an artist could do. And so that's when I decided, okay, I can be an artist. I can be like Mrs. Crimp. This piece is called "The Patient is at the Bottom of the Food Chain." And I came across that title in a magazine article about medical research. And it struck me at that time, but then I started running into more articles about the same problem. And then I collected them. And then I finally just decided I've got to make this into a big piece. Normally I make jewelry, but this idea was too big for that. So I looked at a lot of food chains online. Just what do they look like? Because they're not straight chains. Very few food chains are, straight. They're more like a web is what they are. So I found one that I thought I could kind of model my idea on. I wanted this piece to be metal, but I also wanted it to be lightweight. So this piece is made up out of pitchers and sieves and jello molds and pan lids, things that were used in 20th century kitchens. And then we kept working on the way down. I wanted the vessels to be spouting money, because money is really the life force of medical research. So we started out shoving shredded currency into the vinyl tubes. And we got it looking really pretty, and we thought it was really great. And then my bookkeeper took a look at it, and she said, "I think you need to have real money coming out of those vessels, because I can't tell that that's money." And we're like, oh, she's right. So that's when we started having money, currency, a lot of ones coming out of the vessels also. And then it works its way on down through a form that I designed after portraits of the goddess, the great goddess Artemis. She's often shown with many breasts, and she's a life force. So that became the center of it all. That's medical research and academia. And out of that can come dead data that goes nowhere, and then there's some data that goes on. So we kept having it move through. By the time it gets to the patients and the clinics, there's so little money that you can put it in a pill capsule. So we filled pill capsules full of shredded currency, which you can buy on eBay. We started at the top with large vessels, pitchers, that represent special interests, investors, and drug companies. That's where the money starts. And the money is coming out of that in tubes and working its way down into the large vessel of politics. And pretty much all of the money goes through politics at one time or another. Out of the politician vessel, the money comes down into what I call the three graces. And the three graces are the cone-shaped objects, and they are the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, the NIH, the National Institute of Health, and NGOs, which is different nonprofits. That the money flows out to them. From them, the money flows into the main vessel of academia and medical research. The problem is that people often hide their dead data and they don't make it available for other researchers. So we have the dead data is shredded currency that's going into test tubes. And then there is some money, there's still some money that comes out, a little bit, and it goes into the vessel that we call Medicare, insurance, and clinics. So what money does go to patients goes through that. And then it comes down in a very small abbreviated form, these little pills filled with currency. And as you can see, just a little bit makes it down to the patients. The patients were all women from my family. And I also included the days that they were on this earth alive, but also how they were related to me. So it's my mother, my sister, my aunt, my grandmother, 2 of her sisters, and my great-grandmother. That's what makes it personal. So this whole thing starts out up in a very large area and funnels down to this one small place at the end of the food chain, and the patients don't get that much. So buzzing around the outside of all these other vessels are these little, they look like buzz bombs that we call lawyers. Lawyers are an important part of medical research process, but again, they're not good, they're not bad, they're lawyers for hire. So sometimes they work for the drug companies and sometimes they work for the patients. But there's a lot of lawyers involved in medical research and just in the medical world. A lot of it, liability, the drug trials, all of that. At the very top is a fan. And I read about the karmic winds, the 8 karmic winds in a book by Joseph Campbell. And he's talking about how the 8 karmic winds of the ego, basically fear and desire, are what messes things up in the world. Let's just put it that way. What I wanted the fan for was to explain that all of these entities, special interest investors, politicians, clinics, the FDA, all of these entities are in themselves not bad. And the money in itself is not bad. But they're all run by humans. And they're all adjusted by humans. And it's the human ego that messes it up, the fear and desire. So I tried to create the 8 karmic winds. That's what the fan is for. Fear and desire, fear and desire, fear and desire. That's what messes us up. And I've been doing this for more than 40 years. And it's a really hard career. And I went to art school in Ellensburg and then graduate school in Georgia with a lot of really talented people. Quite frankly, more talented than me, many of them. But I think the reason I was able to keep making was I found myself in this supportive environment, not only coming from a supportive environment like Ellensburg, but also living in Seattle, where there are museums and galleries, and there were other professional artists that showed me how to do it. The very first place I ever showed my artwork was the Ellensburg Community Art Gallery, which was an earlier version of Gallery 1. But this is like a home gallery for me. This is like where things started for me.